Hey everybody, thanks for joining me and the team today. My name is Hakan Gogebakan, most call me Hacks, and I'm an account manager based out of Tealium Sydney office in Australia. Now, have I got something special to share with you guys today? I'm so pumped about this. So super excited to be hosting today's fireside chat with Monash University's Director of Marketing Infrastructure, Amin Foda, and Tealium Senior Director of Product, Dave Lucas. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Amin, Dave, legends. Would you be so kind to introduce yourselves to the wonderful audience?
Absolutely. I'll go first, Dave, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
So as Hack said, I'm Amin Foda, Director of Marketing Infrastructure. I work for Monash University. And just to give you guys a bit of background on Monash University. So Monash is one of the largest universities in Australia. We have about 80,000 plus students at any given time. We have over 400,000 alumni, around about 20,000 employees from both a professional and an academic side. And we have 4 campuses in Australia and a global footprint as well across Malaysia. Coming up is Indonesia. And we have a center in Prato, Italy. We also actually have a lot of alliances across the globe from a research perspective and from just an education perspective through India, China, America, you name it. So we have a big global footprint, and it's really important for us to actually understand that space and the kind of capacity that we work with. I work in a division called Strategic Marketing Communications. Now, marketing at Monash is both centralized and decentralized, but our division is responsible for making sure that we align everything that we do strategically to the focused Monash strategy that is developed for the university across both education and research efforts. And that's really what we look at. And from my specific team, we look after things like customer experience, data science and analytics, marketing technology, and automation personalization. So my remit is encompassing of all of those areas.
Great, very impressive. Yeah, Dave Lucas here, Senior Director of Product at Tealium, as Hack said. I focus on products related to analytics, machine learning, AI, lots of data-focused stuff. That's because my background is as a data guy. I have about 15 years of experience working as an individual contributor and a leader on various data teams across industries, actually including university life. When I was younger, I worked for the University of Florida for years on their decision science team, they called it back then. Yeah, before I was with Tealium, I was actually a customer of Tealium's for 2 years. I was head of data for an e-commerce brand in Florida called Fracture, and we were a Tealium customer. So it's great to be here.
Awesome, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Let's get things started with getting to know about both of your journeys a little bit more, right? So starting with my man, Amin. Amin, Monash University has been a Tealium customer for a few years now. Can you tell us where you started and how you evolved since then?
Absolutely, and look, it's quite an interesting question to start with, because if you think about Monash University and what I've said about the size of Monash, obviously we are a legacy organization. Like we're 60 plus years in the market, so not that old, but still within 60 years you can do a lot of things at a university. So when we brought in Tealium, we had to really think strategically on how we use that technology, because it's something new for the university. Like my whole division over the past 2 years was non-existent. Sorry, before the past 2 years was non-existent. We were just created recently, and we had to be able to look at our data and use it in a different way, and hence why we've introduced Tealium into the business, to be able to orchestrate our data in a better way and take decisions off the back of it. It's a big change for the university. So we couldn't do it all at once. When you're doing a cultural change like that, you have to take it bit by bit in a way. So we started small as much as possible. And we try to prove the value and then grow from there, or add more use cases from there. And one of the things that we've done at the beginning when we started the use case was Open Day. Now, you'd say Open Day is not small, and absolutely, I agree with you. Open Day is definitely not small for a university.
What a big place
exactly.
to start, right? Yeah,
it is, but it was an interesting thing, and also an opportunity for us. So with Open Day, like, we get roughly around about 70,000 people attend Open Day physically, based on the numbers that we've seen.
It's like a concert. It's like a concert.
Almost. It's almost going to fill up the MCG here in Australia the next time we do it. Yeah. But the attendance as well, like, physical is one part of it, but from a digital perspective, the registrations that we get are anywhere between 13 to 15,000 registrations or engagements with Open Day. So it is a great opportunity from a volume perspective to work with and see how we can use data to actually change experiences and behaviors. But we still, even though it's quite big, we've decided to go a little bit small with what we've done with it. And we have around about 600 different sessions that people can register and attend for, and create kind of a schedule for the day. And the thing that we were focused on is, how can we make sure that we don't get people to try and filter through the 600 odd events or activities, and focus on what they should necessarily register for, or our perception of what we believe they should register for. So we use some of our kind of behavioral data through their interactions with us, and also the data that they gave us in our registration forms, or our lead capture, putting those together to start recommending activities that they should, or are more likely to attend during the day. And we did it simply through two channels, just email and web. So when they come back and interact and try and build their planner for the day, or plan their day, we've kind of sent subtle hints and recommended those events for them. So it's a big undertaking, but it was still a small kind of change that we've created, and that actually showed a lot of value. We've roughly seen about 20% increase in the number of events that people registered for, based on those who were recommended activity versus those that we didn't recommend anything for. So actually really good result.
Nice.
That's an awesome change for so awesome result for a little bit of change. Like that's phenomenal, right? So then taking that, and I mean that was very, very handy. Like Dave, like does that differ from your path as a customer? When you were in that?
Not really. It's, it's funny. So I see now that I interact with a lot of other customers, I really love how many similarities there actually tend to be, right? Because one day I can speak with someone from an Australian university, and the next day it might be a Japanese airline, and then a Dutch bank. But it's really cool to see how we're all, even though we're all so radically different, we're all here for the same reason, which is because we're kind of thinking the same way. And Amin mentioned a couple phrases that are near and dear to me too, like the idea that you're trying to bring about a cultural change, and whether we use phrase like digital transformation, right? I think, if an organization gets to the point where they realize like, okay, we're going to do this now, and usually they've got one or more people who are kind of championing that, then you end up coming to a very similar place. You get excited about the same things, you want to learn the same things, you want to have the same kind of impact, so that, you can drive better experiences, right? And one other little thing that I liked about what Amin said is it was a great idea to pick one initiative, because I remember when I first got Tealium, we were building an all new stack for data and technology to sort of marry, our hard IT with our marketing. And I was filling in everything in between. And I bit off way too much with the first mouthful. I think I promised too much. So love that little nugget of advice there. Like, if you can pick one thing to focus on and show value, it's great advice right there.
Oh, look, absolutely. And it helps a lot, Dave.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dave, that's super. And having exposure, I guess, to both sides of the fence will ultimately help helps you and the team build a more kind of complete, well-rounded product, right? So sort of leaving no piece and requirement unconsidered. And this is kind of why we love our customers and so much. Their willingness to work with us, and as much as we are devoted to delivering them success as quickly as possible. It's a win-win. You can't really go wrong. And so coming back to Amin, and I'm pulling the spotlight back onto you, my friend. So let's do this. Tell me and tell us, what are you most excited about kind of moving forward?
Look, there's a lot of things to be excited about at a university like ours, and the things that are possible for us to do when we actually use our data properly. Like one of the things that is another big undertaking, and for that one, Dave, I will say it is a big undertaking that we're doing. But hopefully will help us. So we're currently working on a piece of work that we're calling BI enablement, and that's bringing all of our university data sources into the one hub. So we can actually start using most of them as best as possible, and moving into that space with predictions and machine learnings and stuff like that, like going a little bit more advanced in our kind of data science thinking. And our approach to using data. And that's really what I'm excited about, is actually being able to get all of that offline data together to use Tealium better for the power that we really want to use it for. And especially now that we've done 3 use cases that people are going, oh yeah, okay, what's next? Come on, give us more.
Yeah.
And so then that's awesome. And so like Dave, like Tealium obviously recently launched a machine learning with a new CDP feature called Tealium Predict, right? And so can you share with the audience what Tealium Predict is, and how does that sort of how does that relate to Monash's sort of journey right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Predict we're extremely excited about it. It represents, in my mind, several things, but one is, a really great first step toward taking this technology of machine learning and applying it in the data supply chain, right, across kind of what Tealium's entire product stack offers. And we're developing a ton of ML related initiatives kind of under the hood. We've got a data science team on staff with my team that does basically endless R&D projects to sort this stuff out. And it's really fun, but Predict is sort of like the first home run they've come up with. And the key thing is that the audience stream product, the customer data platform that Tealium already has, can be a really great delivery vehicle or means of activating something that comes out of machine learning, right? Because you need a way to get that into your MarTech stack, or to integrate it into your general customer data set, whether you do that integration in Tealium or downstream in a data warehouse, et cetera. So, that activation piece, I think, is really being left out of the conversation right now around machine learning. Everyone kind of tends to focus on just like the model and the technical piece of it. But once you have a working model, how do you get that value to marketing faster or to another stakeholder faster? So the idea with Predict is to sort of remove a lot of that friction and make it a lot more seamless.
Beautiful. This is beautiful. It sounds amazing. The Monash,
obviously
Monash, yeah, it's super exciting to obviously be delivering and engaging with you guys on this. So Monash obviously has been one of our first customers to use Tealium Predict, and also being one of my customers is also super, exciting. I mean, what about Tealium Predict is the most exciting to you in Monash University?
Well, for one, getting to work with Dave and his team, because I'm really excited about the R&D that they do. Let's put it that way. Having had multiple conversations with Dave so far, I do want to work there. Absolutely. But I think like, if I put it from my perspective, it is a brilliant product for marketers to be able to use in the future, and especially with the emphasis on data and the use of data to make decisions rapidly, not just kind of having a lag effect like we generally do at times. That's one of the biggest things that people need to be really aware of when you're using something like Tealium Predict. It is about rapid decision making to be able to optimize, whether it's your investment or your activity, on the spot as much as possible. So it's as close to real time as possible. And that's how we're looking at using it ourselves. Again, similar to what we've done with introducing Tealium, we're looking at it from a very simple perspective going, all right, if we do advertising, what is the likelihood of that advertising driving the registrations or attendance to an event that we want? So taking it from the very beginning and go, first touch point, this is what I need you to do. Can we predict the action that's going to happen off the back of the advertising, and making sure that we're not wasting our dollars in market by just doing the concept of spray and pray or broadcasting our advertising.
Yeah, which is kind of the standard with most because it's so comfortable. But then the customers are demanding more, right? The customers are wanting you to know them and to personalize their experience and provide them the delightful experiences. But how do you even prepare for something like Predict, like both like strategically thinking and organizationally? Like when you kind of think about components like the people and the processes, like how did you prepare?
Look, it's quite a good question to ask, because when you start on a journey like mine over the past 2 years, you don't necessarily have all of these thought through or the answers until you start uncovering over time.
Yeah,
definitely not. I can say that from my personal experience.
Yeah, same.
But when we have started this journey with Tealium, but even with my function holistically, we've actually been looking at the team that I've had or created at Monash, and what are the gaps that have been identified, both from a people and a process perspective. And actually it kind of made us rethink, all right, we need to actually look at the function in a way that it's kind of an organizational workflow, that they come together, but they also have to deliver things separately at times. And we have obviously the design thinking happening at the top, trying to identify the experience and understand what is the optimal experience we need to deliver to our audiences based on the feedback that we get. But then moving down the line of understanding the data that comes out of it and understanding the technologies that support that experience was one part of it, and measuring it and being able to actually drive the insights. The gap that we found was what I could call activation. So all of that is happening, but no one's really taking it out and activating it to be able to use it. So we've created a new function that their sole responsibility is activating anything that we build, all of the customer experiences that we define and design from a service design blueprint or touch point mapping. They take it and activate it out with the channels and work with the channel owners to make sure that it's delivered. So it is something that we didn't think about at the beginning, because we went, oh yeah, the channels can activate it directly. But we realized that there's a gap from translating it from a service design blueprint to a technology stack that is powering that experience to then the channel. There was a gap. And that's what we've done. And it's actually so far been proving pretty well, because they're also channel agnostic. They tend to think about it from a strategic lens on how to use all of these capabilities and the data and the insights through the channels, irrespective of the channel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That Dave, I saw you agreeing to Amin just moments ago when I asked him the question. Is there anything you've learned from Amin and his team, or sort of other initial customers that shifted your original plans with Predict?
Yeah, absolutely. And before I go into that, I got to say, like, I think Amin and his team have figured out a new role, like this activation center role. Like, this is going to grow because it's an absolutely critical function. There is a huge gap there, et cetera. And so I guess kind of taking back into Hacks, what you asked there about what we've learned as we've developed this product. A lot of it does come down to sort of like gaps like that. You know, the activation piece was one, and that's a critical part of what we hope to offer, is to close that gap. Other interesting things that we've learned is, you know, one great thing about Predict is that since your data set is already in Tealium, we don't have to ask you to put much thought into your data set. You can essentially make a model and it'll automatically work with that data set without you doing the extensive pre-processing that you usually would have to do if you were a data scientist in industry doing this yourself.
And you agree, like that usually takes a data scientist anywhere between 60 to 70% of the time, right?
Yeah, long time. Even today, right? Even in 2020, it takes forever. And it was like the bane of my existence when I was doing it, right? So So one thing that's been really interesting was that at first, it was essentially like choose the behavior you want to predict, and then here goes the model, right? And on some level, though, that is more exploratory than we want it to be, because what if they choose something that for whatever reason their data set isn't actually very predictive for? And so we've kind of set this expectation of like, hey, you can predict anything you want, but then maybe the model comes back and it's not that great. So a feature we added in as a result of the beta program that I think is going to be really useful is this idea of sort of like health ratings for your attributes, for your behaviors, of like, is this behavior ready for modeling? And so what we're doing under the hood is we're checking ahead of time for you, is this model going to train successfully, and that kind of thing. Obviously, we're not expecting perfection out the gate, because that's not how stats works. But this feature seems to have really helped a lot, and it kind of helps close another gap, which is like the expectations gap there. So that one's been fun to add in.
Brilliant. It's awesome. And I think obviously during the beta and in such a short amount of time, Amin and his talented team have already taken some machine learning baby steps, so to speak. Yeah. And huge congrats, by the way. What advice would you give those considering doing the same?
Similar to what we said earlier, and I think Dave touched on it as well, don't try to bite more than you can chew. It is definitely something to keep in mind. If you try and tackle a big problem all at the same time, it will be very hard for you to solve that problem unless you're capable to think about that problem in chunk sizes. I think that's the important thing, because our vision with how we use machine learning and actually how we activate it through Predict, rather than just the data scientist function that we have in the business, it was important to understand the vision holistically of what the end goal is about, but really break it down to, all right, what is the first step that we need to take to start understanding and playing around with it, and getting our interest, interest in the business around, okay, this is now a change, this is what we're doing differently, right, from a simple position before you actually just grow it out all of a sudden and tell people this is the new world that is changing. It's really important when you're working with any marketing team, because marketers are really passionate individuals, and they're really passionate and creative. Coming in with data, they tend to get scared about it. So when you take small steps, it actually helps bring them on the journey as well. And like I said, the way we're using it is really about doing one simple thing, showing the value, and showing people why data is important in decisioning.
Awesome. That's very, very useful advice, especially the part around taking iterative, like small baby steps, right, until you get to the top of the mountain, so to speak. That's thanks for sharing that. We are reaching the last leg of the chat, and last question. I promise you're probably wondering how many more are to come, but if you could give one reason to those in the crowd to really, really dig in and try scale their use of machine learning, what would that be?
A really good thing to think about. If I consider what we've been doing with machine learning and kind of predictions, it's really around driving focus and our kind of resources on quality. It's not about anything beyond that. So every business and every university as well, you get a lot of interaction and engagement through different channels, and a lot of opportunities to convert individuals or to build a relationship with them. For us, it's not just about the top of the funnel, as marketers will call it. It's really about going and focusing your efforts on understanding which ones of those people coming in are really going to drive a long-term opportunity. And that's where we're doing those baby steps to start going, all right, if I engage with you, you're going to actually take an action with me. And trying to understand that from the beginning, because machine learning can help you understand the quality or the interest based on the engagements and the breadth of the engagements that you bring together from a data perspective, and focus your efforts. Now, I'm not saying that you disregard the ones that are lower quality. It's just when you're focusing your efforts, you focus on the ones that are definitely more likely to convert or take an action with you, and then go down the line to the ones that are less likely, because those that are less likely in a month's time might be actually more likely to convert now. So that's what we are trying to do. It's almost like stack ranking, using data and machine learning to stack rank our focus for the time that we're in.
Awesome. I mean, perfect. Thank you, sir. Well, guys, we've reached the end of the chat. A huge thank you to our speakers, Amin, Dave, for sharing their stories with us today. We hope our audience found it useful. You were both amazing, as always. Thank you to everyone on the line. Be safe, be well, and always be a data visionary. Goodbye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks, Alex. Bye.
Cheers.